This painting, titled Self-Portrait with Bandaged Ear, was completed by Vincent van Gogh in January 1889, during his time in Arles, a small town in the south of France. The work is one of over 30 self-portraits Van Gogh created throughout his career, but it stands apart for its direct engagement with a pivotal and difficult moment in the artist's life. In this composition, Van Gogh presents himself from the chest up, his face turned slightly to the right, so that the left side, covered by a prominent white bandage, is visible to the viewer. He wears a thick blue-green fur hat and a heavy green coat, both rendered with bold, textured brushstrokes. The background is a pale, cool green, punctuated by a partial view of a Japanese woodblock print on the wall behind him. Van Gogh's eyes, wide and intense, meet the viewer's gaze directly, conveying a sense of both vulnerability and determination. The painting is held today in the Courtauld Institute of Art in London, where it remains one of the most closely studied and frequently reproduced images in the history of modern art. The context in which this self-portrait was created is essential to understanding its impact and meaning. In December 1888, Van Gogh experienced a severe mental health crisis. This culminated in an incident in which he mutilated his own left ear, an event that has been the subject of much discussion and research. While the precise details remain a matter of scholarly debate, it is clear that the injury was self-inflicted during a period of psychological distress. At the time, Van Gogh had been living in Arles, hoping to establish a community of artists. He had invited Paul Gauguin, a fellow painter, to join him, and the two men worked together for several weeks. However, their relationship became increasingly strained, leading to arguments and ultimately, Gauguin's departure. It was in the aftermath of this rupture that Van Gogh's crisis occurred. The self-portrait was painted shortly after Van Gogh's release from the hospital, at a time when he was both physically recovering and emotionally isolated. Despite these challenges, he continued to work with remarkable intensity, channeling his experiences into his art. The most immediately striking feature of the painting is the bandage that covers Van Gogh's left ear. Rendered with thick, impasto brushstrokes, the bandage is a stark white, standing out against the warmer tones of the artist's skin and the deep blue of his hat. This visual contrast draws the viewer's attention directly to the site of injury, making the wound both a literal and symbolic focal point of the portrait. The bandage is not depicted delicately. Instead, its rough texture and prominent placement emphasize the reality of Van Gogh's suffering. This detail encapsulates the artist's vulnerability and the physical consequences of his mental health struggles. Art historians have noted that by including the bandage so prominently, Van Gogh confronts the viewer with the reality of his condition, refusing to shy away from its implications. The portrait thus serves as both a document of a specific event and a broader meditation on human fragility and resilience. Van Gogh's approach to color and brushwork in this self-portrait is characteristic of his mature style. The palette is dominated by cool greens and blues, which create a subdued, almost melancholic atmosphere. The green of the coat and the background is subtly varied, with hints of yellow and blue that add depth and vibrancy. The hat, rendered in deep blue-green, provides a striking contrast to the paler background and the bright white of the bandage. Van Gogh's brushwork is energetic and highly visible, particularly in the modeling of his face and clothing. He uses directional strokes to suggest the contours of his features, while broader, more gestural marks convey the texture of the coat and hat. The paint is applied thickly in places, creating a tactile surface that invites close inspection. This technique, known as impasto, is a hallmark of Van Gogh's work from this period. It not only adds a sense of immediacy and presence to the image, but also serves to heighten its emotional intensity. Rather than striving for photographic realism, Van Gogh uses color and texture to communicate his inner state and to evoke a powerful response in the viewer. A closer look at the background reveals an intriguing detail. A Japanese ukiyo-e print is partially visible on the wall behind Van Gogh's head. This inclusion is not incidental. Van Gogh was an avid collector and admirer of Japanese prints, which were widely available in Europe during the late 19th century. He was drawn to their bold outlines, flat areas of color, and innovative compositions, and he often sought to incorporate these qualities into his own work. The print depicted here shows figures in traditional dress, with a landscape that may represent Mount Fuji. By placing this image in the background of his self-portrait, Van Gogh situates himself within a broader artistic context, signaling his engagement with international art trends and his desire to learn from diverse traditions. The Japanese print also serves as a decorative element, breaking up the otherwise plain background and adding a layer of visual interest. For Van Gogh, Japanese art represented an ideal of harmony and simplicity, qualities he aspired to achieve in his own paintings. This detail thus enriches our understanding of the portrait, highlighting the artist's openness to new influences and his ongoing search for inspiration. The painting's provenance offers additional insight into its significance. After Van Gogh's death in 1890, many of his works remained with his brother Theo, and later, Theo's widow Johanna van Gogh Bonger. Over time, the self-portrait passed through the hands of several private collectors and was exhibited in various galleries. In the 20th century, it was acquired by the Courtauld Institute of Art in London, where it became part of a renowned collection of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist works. The Courtauld's holdings are notable for their emphasis on artists who pushed the boundaries of traditional painting, and Van Gogh's self-portrait is a central highlight. Its presence in a public institution has allowed for extensive scholarly study and has made the painting accessible to a wide audience. Today, it is recognized as one of the most important self-portraits of the modern era, valued not only for its artistic qualities, but also for its historical and psychological depth. Van Gogh's life was marked by periods of intense creativity and profound personal struggle. His time in Arles, though brief, was one of the most productive phases of his career. Despite his mental health challenges, he produced a remarkable series of paintings, including some of his most celebrated works. The self-portrait with Bandaged Ear stands as a testament to his resilience and his commitment to his craft. It offers a rare, unvarnished glimpse into the artist's experience, capturing both his suffering and his determination to continue working. The painting's directness and honesty have contributed to its enduring appeal, inviting viewers to engage not only with Van Gogh's art, but also with the broader questions it raises about creativity, adversity, and the human condition. In reflecting on the significance of self-portrait with Bandaged Ear, it is clear that the painting occupies a unique place in the history of art. It is both a personal document and a work of universal resonance, bridging the gap between individual experience and collective understanding. Through his use of color, texture, and composition, Van Gogh transforms a moment of crisis into an enduring statement of artistic vision. The painting's legacy is evident not only in its continued study and exhibition, but also in its influence on later generations of artists, who have looked to Van Gogh as a model of authenticity and expressive power. Self-Portrait with Bandaged Ear remains a powerful reminder of the ways in which art can both reflect and transcend the circumstances of its creation, offering insight, empathy, and inspiration across time and place.